All right, guys, I think we'll get started. Hopefully everyone joins soon. So thank you so much for joining Side by Side's 7th virtual event on Waterloo's info session and Q&A for incoming freshers and high school students. Since this is an online workshop, there might be some technical difficulties, so please bear with us if there are. And we ask that everyone just stays muted and turns off their video and just uses the chat if they need to communicate with us. So my name is Janaksha. I don't go to Waterloo, and I'm one of the 3 co-founders of Side by Side Agency. Before I introduce our panelists and let them talk, I'm just going to share a little bit about Side by Side. So Side by Side was started in late April as a response to COVID-19 to help students adjust to online learning. So we initially only provided free tutoring services to K-12 students, but then we realized we wanted Side by Side to go beyond COVID-19. We also realized how stressful it will be to try and think about university when you're stuck at home and you can't go visit your university of choice. And so we decided to create the mentorship program. In addition to our tutoring and mentorship services, we also have a tremendous amount of resources on our website, our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And to sign up for mentorship, if you're interested, you can follow the link that I'm going to send in the chat again. Oops, sorry, send that. And you can also look at our website if you want to learn a little bit more. And once you sign up for our mentorship program, we personally match you to our mentors, which we have a bunch of them here today. We also have a couple more mentors from Waterloo and a lot from other universities as well. If you meet someone today, maybe that you're really interested in speaking to one-on-one, or you see someone on their Instagram, you can go ahead and add their name to the form and we'll match you with them specifically. And once you sign up, you get to have one-on-one interactions with the student. You can call them or email them, whichever they're comfortable with and you're comfortable with. And they can be your support system to support you with school, figuring out courses, figuring out career-related stuff, co-op, whatever it is. And you also get exclusive access to our future workshops, which include like pre-med, MCAT, pre-law workshops, as well as resume and interview prep. And so for today, we have a group of, I believe, seven wonderful panelists. These panelists are in a variety of different programs at Waterloo. But of course, again, as I said, our mentorship program, we have a couple other people from Waterloo as well. Something to note is that if you have any questions throughout the entire workshop, feel free to send them through the chat and just send them to everyone instead of sending them to specifically like the person you want to ask them to, just so that we can all like see the question and ask the question and hear it. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can also send it to me, Janaksha, privately. So you can go on the chat section and just select Janaksha to message instead. And then I will ask all of the questions during our Q&A, which will be towards the end of the workshop. So now I'm going to ask all of our panelists to introduce themselves.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Julie, and I'm finishing my second year at Waterloo, and I'm majoring in math. So I'm in the program. I've done 2 co-ops at Centric Software and Google, doing software engineering. My future career interests are to have a career in finance or tech. Extracurriculars, I'm a part of the board games club at Waterloo, and my advice to you guys is don't compare yourselves to others because everyone's just on their own path.
Hey guys, my name is Drew. I'm in mechanical engineering. So I'm just finishing up my 2B term. My last 2 co-ops were actually in the software industry, and that was like by my choice, just because I was more interested in software jobs. But recently, I actually discovered about myself that I kind of want to go into teaching full time at like the university or college level. Things that I do outside of school, I'm in like the a cappella club, UAC, and there's like a lot of different teams like in UAC. I like rock climbing, like working out, and I did a lot of performing arts and theater before university. And if I could give you guys any advice, just be yourself and don't care about what other people think about you.
Hi everyone, I'm Archana and I'm currently studying biomedical sciences at Waterloo. After my undergrad, I hope to continue my education with either graduate school or professional school. For my extracurriculars, I'm actually vice president of Waterloo's World Vision chapter, which is a nonprofit organization. I'm also a swim instructor with SWAM Waterloo, which is short for Swimming with a Mission, where we teach children with special needs how to swim. And my advice for you guys is Don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone and try new things. By engaging in extracurriculars, different sports teams, and clubs, you guys will make a lot of friends.
Hi guys, my name's Sarah. I'm going into my third year of kinesiology, but I did start in public health. As far as future career interests go, I'm interested in pursuing medicine, so hopefully I'll be going to medical school. For extracurriculars, I'm on the AHS Undergrad Council. I'm an orientation leader, and among a few other things, I'm in this program called Medical Education and Mentoring. And for advice, I would just say make sure you keep an open mind when you go into university. It's a really good time to explore new interests and try a bunch of new things. So definitely be open to that and to change.
Hey guys, my name is Bremian. I'm going to my second year of accounting and financial management. I'm yet to do my co-op, and I would like to have a co-op in the finance industry. Right now, I'm a part of a couple clubs called World Vision, Not Just Tourists, and the SAF Outreach Ambassador Program, which is the School of Accounting Outreach Ambassador Program. And some advice I'd like to give you guys is try enough new things so you can figure out what you have a genuine interest in, and then go ahead and pursue those things, because that's where you'll see the most success in.
Hey guys, my name is Rihanna. I'm currently in my third year of Honors Recreation and Sport Business Co-op. As far as future career interest goes, I'm interested in corporate business, whether that be with sport organizations or sports teams. A few of my extracurriculars are I am the Director of Marketing and Partnerships of the Sport Business Association. I'm an AHS mentor, a We Connect mentor, as well as a Sport Business Ambassador. So if you guys have questions, feel free to come to me with those. I'm also in the co-op program, so I've previously interned at U Sports for marketing and sponsorships, as well as international game operations. And I was chosen to participate in the Disney International Exchange Program. Any advice that I would give you guys is to just actively seek out and take advantage of all the opportunities presented to you. Waterloo is really good about this. They have so many opportunities for their students, especially with COVID going on. Just take advantage of all of them to really develop your skills and just meet new people for sure.
Hey guys, my name is Kat, and I'm in my 2B Biotech CPA term, which is a double degree in science and accounting. This program has a large push towards accounting through the Waterloo's accredited Masters of Accounting program, so hopefully I'll get my CPA and then pursue a career in business. This is a co-op program, and I did my first co-op at Ernst & Young, and I'm returning there in January. Some of my extracurriculars are varsity cheer, the AFSA tax clinic, where we file taxes for lower income individuals in the community, and staff orientation leader. I also worked on campus a couple of terms, so I worked at the pool, and I've also worked reffing intramural basketball. My advice to you would be to take life one day at a time and not to be afraid to make choices for yourself that make you happy.
Nice. So now we're going to go into some of our pre-planned questions. So my first question is, why Waterloo? I'm going to ask that to our Channa first.
So at first, I was actually confused on whether I wanted to study science or business. So I applied to both programs. I applied to Waterloo for life sciences, and I also applied to their science and business program. So I finally decided to accept my offer for life sciences, majoring in biomedical sciences, because I really enjoyed physics and biology in high school, and I thought it would be a good idea to continue in science. And I would like to say that my favorite part of Waterloo right now is how essentially interconnected the science faculty is. You see a lot of familiar faces in your labs, your lectures, and tutorials. And now when you walk on campus or walk into a science building, you see a lot of people that you know, which is really convenient when you need help with something, you miss a lecture and need notes and stuff like that.
Nice. And Julie?
So I think like many other people, what attracted to Waterloo for me was their co-op program. My brother went to Waterloo, and every few months he got to, have these awesome internships in different parts of the world, and I thought that was so sick. So that's why I went to Waterloo. And they also have really great STEM programs and just overall really good career opportunities for their students.
Nice. Our next question is, what made you decide your major or program? I'm going to ask Catherine first.
So in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my future, and maybe some of you can relate, but I did know that I wanted to go to university right away, and I didn't want to take a gap year. So flexibility is really important to me, and for that reason, I want to keep my options open. So I applied to a lot of different schools, a lot of different programs, and I ended up choosing this double major, mainly so I could keep my options open later in case I didn't like one or the other. Additionally, the program does have co-op, and that was a huge appeal for Waterloo for me. Like, in fact, I applied to 3 programs at Waterloo because of co-op. And this is just so important because it allows exploration in careers without commitment, and you can make some money.
Nice. Rihanna?
So for me, it was a little different. I sort of grew up as an athlete playing sports, so I always knew sports was something I wanted to go into, but I wasn't really sure what a career in that would entail. So I came across the sport business program at Waterloo, and as well as co-op, and I thought it was a great opportunity for me because it really coupled my love for sports and business all in one. So, like I said, co-op was a big part of why I chose it because, especially for me, the sports industry is incredibly hard to get into unless you know people. So, for me, I thought it'd be really great to be able to work in the industry and grow my network connections as well as study at the same time so that, like everyone said, you can have jobs when you're ready to graduate, and when you are looking for a job, it'll make it a lot easier.
All right. Bremyan?
So truthfully, I didn't know what I wanted to do initially. I had a completely different career path in mind, but then soon I realized that I had other interests which I wanted to pursue. So I knew I had interests in entrepreneurship, stocks, real estate, finance, that sort of stuff. And so I decided AFM would be the best path for me, which is why I took it, yeah.
Nice. And Archana?
As I mentioned earlier, my path in science was very confused as I was debating between business and science, and I ended up making more of a practical decision when I chose science because I thought even if I went into science first and were to switch into business, that transition would be a lot easier compared to the other way around. And 2 years into biomed at Waterloo, I'm pretty happy with my decision.
All right. Our next question is, how was your application process? I'm gonna ask Drew first.
Yeah, so the application process is it's going to be different for every program. So I guess I can speak to most of the engineering programs. So you have to apply through the school, whether you're like in province, out of province, international student, however that may be. For me, I was in province, so that was through OUAC, and then you also submit an AIF, which is called an additional information form, and that's required by some programs. Engineering, it's required, and what it is just like it's a supplementary that allows you to show the school like what other things you do besides academics, so other things that you're interested in or passionate about. If you have really good grades in high school, but you have a really poor AIF, it actually reduces your chances of getting accepted into your program by a lot, because they want to see students who are well-rounded. And in addition, for engineering programs, it's not required, but it is recommended that you do video interviews, which are all held online. And it's basically pre-recorded questions that are randomly selected, and it counts down, and then you get one chance to record your answer. But if you be yourself, and like the questions are very similar to like an actual interview questions, but it's just be yourself and it should be okay.
All right. And Sarah?
Yeah, so mine was a bit different. I also applied through OUAC because I was in province, but the AIF form or the supplemental isn't required for kin or I believe for any of the AHS programs. However, that being said, I would definitely highly recommend filling it out. Like Drew said, it's a really good way to show the school why you're a good candidate all around. Even if you do have like a very high average, it is definitely helpful to fill that out because Waterloo takes into account your extracurriculars as well. So it's a really good chance to talk about why you're passionate about the program you're applying for, talk about your extracurriculars. And if you do have some grades that weren't at the top of maybe like the application pool, it's a good way to explain that also. So I would definitely highly recommend it for AHS too.
All right. My next question is about the co-op process. So what's it like for your program? I'm going to start by asking Catherine.
So in my program, most people do start in accounting co-ops, so I can kind of speak to AFM and maths CPA as well. The great thing about Waterloo is we have amazing ties with the big 4 accounting firms as well as some mid-sized firms. So my main advice would be to network a lot. In fact, I didn't even use Waterloo Works to get my co-op. I used my connections and networking. So the recruiters from the Big Four and sometimes mid-sized firms do come to Waterloo, and it's important to talk to them and make connections with the recruiters and learn about the firms in this way. Another thing would be to use your like family or friend connections to see if they can get you a job or an interview. So in high school, I'd say get some job experience, get some club experience, and develop your soft skills, mainly, communication and confidence. In accounting co-ops, a lot of the technical skills can be learned on the job. So a lot of the firms just look for your personality and your soft skills and how you would mesh with their environment. To get a return offer, don't be afraid to ask questions. Try and figure things out for yourself first by looking it up, but then save your questions for the end of the day and ask your manager. And then also take notes and on the critiques and answers they give you so you can apply it in the future. In general, just maintain a good relationship with your managers and mentors. And this is done by, showing up on time, being polite, just being an overall dependable and good person to work with. Lastly, I'd say just analyze the office behavior and try to mimic it. So this applies to, dress code and how they talk to each other.
All right, next I'm gonna ask Rihanna to talk about her experience as well as Waterloo Works.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about Waterloo Works first, just because I know it can be a little bit confusing, especially if you haven't gone through it yet. So basically, when you're in a co-op program, you have two options of finding a job. You can either use Waterloo Works, which is Waterloo's main job board site. So all of their network connections and job postings will be on this one website, easy for you to access and apply to jobs. So if you're using Waterloo Works, basically how it works is you'll need a resume and cover letter, just like any other job. You'll apply, and about a week later, you'll get interviews. Once you do those interviews, you go into a ranking process. Basically, what this means is you as the student, as well as all the employers, will rank each other on a scale of 1 to 10. If you get ranked 1, for example, that means you're getting offered the job. But you can also get ranked anywhere from a 2 to a 10. And what this means is you'll then go into a new phase where you will also rank them 2 to 10. And you'll basically get these numbers matched up, and the least sum is going to be the job you are offered. So I'll give you a little example. If I rank a company 3 and I get a ranking from that same company as a 3, that means my sum is going to be 6 for that job. If that is the lowest number from all of my other rankings, then I will be offered that job, and that'll be my co-op for the next semester. As I said, you also have another option, which is one that I've chosen to do most of the time, which is you can arrange your own job. So this means you can look for a job on LinkedIn, Indeed, anything else, any external job source. And if you get this job, you just have to submit a form to your Waterloo advisor saying, hey, I got this job, and they will approve it for your co-op the next semester. So it's a fairly easy process once you get to know it, but you do have a lot of help along the way as well. Because I know it can be a little confusing. As far as my co-op process goes, as I mentioned before, I've worked at youth sports in marketing and sponsorships, as well as international game operations and merchandise. I've also I'm a part of the Disney Exchange program as well in Florida with partnership with the University of Florida. And I'm also working with the San Jose Sharks, the NHL. So I have had a few opportunities with co-op, but like I said, I've applied to them externally, so those haven't been through Waterloo Works. With my program, I would say there's not too many jobs in the sports industry, but as long as you put in the effort, you're able to find them. So just keep searching and don't give up, and just make sure you apply to jobs that interest you, but also make sure you have backups because you'll get the job and there's no need to worry.
All right. Next, I'm going to ask Julie to talk a bit about her experience and some tips she might have for someone applying.
All right, so some tips I have for applying to jobs is firstly, get your resume critiqued. In my opinion, you should try to get it critiqued by as many people as possible. Send it to your friends, your family. There are a lot of campus events where upper year students can help you review your resume, give you advice, give you tips. So definitely attend those. Secondly is to have those classic interview questions nailed. Things like what's your greatest strength, what's your biggest weakness, where's one instance where you solved a problem. Those things are really important and they come up pretty often. And of course, if your job requires technical questions, definitely practice for those. Also, during interview, getting before the interview, getting to know the company will actually help you a lot. It shows you done your research, you're really interested, and also attend info sessions. During interview week at Waterloo, there will be there's a Facebook page that's, I think it's just Waterloo info sessions, where companies throughout the whole week, there's going to be tons of companies hosting info sessions. And if you're really interested, you could attend. You can talk to an employer of the company, you can ask questions, and it's a really good opportunity to have a good first impression before the interview. What else? Apply externally to as many jobs as you can. It never hurts to do that. For return offers, just ask your employer, yeah, you can just ask hey, I'm looking for a co-op next summer as well. Can I come back here? If they like you, they'll probably say yes. And how do you make your resume stand out? I'd say when you're in your first year, you probably don't have much job experience. So try to work on personal projects related to the position you want. And yeah.
All right, thanks, Julie. I'm just gonna pause for a second just to tell everyone, you can keep sending in your questions to the chat. We're gonna answer them all at the end. So don't worry if you send in a question, someone's not answering it. We're just gonna answer them all out loud at the end. So my next question is, what are some tips you might have for a high school student applying or people coming into your program? I'm gonna ask Drew first.
Yeah, so again, I guess it's different programs have different levels of competitiveness. But I guess for engineering, it's pretty competitive. So from an academic standpoint, your grades should be around at least an 85 or higher. The 85 to 89, the Waterloo statistics for last year, for my program at least, mechanical, and it's different for the other engineering, it's around a 10% chance of getting an offer. And then if you're from 90 to 94, it's approximately 45% chance, and then a 95 or higher is around a 70% chance of an offer, but it doesn't take into account your AIF. So your AIF is really what I would recommend you focus on. Just start doing things that you're passionate about, and it will come through on the application. And just, I guess, try not to be one of the applicants that loads up their application with a bunch of every single extracurricular that you can manage, because it doesn't mean a lot to the school if you're not passionate or persistent with the extracurriculars that you're doing. For my courses, most of mine I don't get to choose, but there are lots of math and science courses, and a couple engineering courses too. You do get 4 compulsory elective, which is other non-related engineering things, and that's throughout your degree. And that depends on your program, how it's organized. But your 4th year, you get to choose technical electives, and that makes up the majority of your courses. And those are technical engineering related to your field of study. And easier hard courses to note. Again, courses are all different for everyone, but in first year, there's a general course, linear algebra, that most engineering students take. That one is definitely the biggest jump from high school math. Even if you're taking AP calculus, it cannot even compare to the stuff that you go through in the knowledge in first year. So just be careful with that one.
All right. Bramian?
Yeah, so some tips I have for you guys is pretty much just do what you find interesting, because that's where I noticed that I would be most successful in, and that'll take me the furthest. Because in terms of clubs, I'm referring to clubs right now because a lot of people in AFM, they tend to go into clubs that are accounting related, because they think that when they go into, or when they apply for an accounting job, they're definitely going to get it because they got all these accounting clubs. But everyone knows no one likes to go, no one wants to be in an accounting club. So truthfully, just do things you're interested in. And so even after coming to uni, I continued doing things of my interest, and that's made a huge difference for not only my resume, but my happiness. Because I noticed when I do things I like, it just makes you happy. You're with people, you're with like-minded individuals. So it really makes a difference. And so for AFM students, your first year courses, they're already selected for you. And so some courses I personally had trouble with would be accounting. And that's just because I never took accounting in high school, because that wasn't my career choice. But But yeah, so accounting I had a little bit of trouble in, but it was still, otherwise it is manageable. Econ, some people, it's funny because some people hate econ. They can't stand it. But personally, I really enjoyed it, and it's a love or hate thing. And so there's also a course called AFM 112, and it's business analytics. And personally, I liked it. It had a little bit of R, so you guys can Google what that is. It's kind of like it's just coding really. It's coding and that sort of stuff. You guys can Google it and look into it. But other than that, I think the one other thing that really made a difference for me is scheduling my time properly. So even though it might sound dumb, over the first couple of weeks, you'll start to learn like a lot about yourself. So from what time you need to study to be most effective to how long you can focus. So I quickly realized that I am best at studying in the morning. Early mornings, you'll find me sitting at my desk, and that's because I can just focus really well at that time. But once it gets around like 4 p.m., 5 p.m., I'll be on my phone the entire time. I'll tell myself I'm studying, but I'm really not. And so, since some of you guys might be living at home because of the virus right now, make sure you make the most of that because once you leave your house, you're not going to have your parents. So that was like a big deal for me because my parents, they made my lunch, they made my dinner. Half the time they made my breakfast, and it's literally cereal. So make the most of it. But yeah, that's about it, guys.
All right, Sarah.
Yeah, so this isn't really a tip, but I thought it was important to say. As you're going through the application process, if you are applying to a co-op program and for whatever reason you don't get into that program, and you just get into the regular stream, you can always reapply for co-op later. That also goes vice versa. So if you are in co-op and for whatever reason you don't like it, you can switch out into the regular stream after. Um, as far as tips go, I would definitely recommend prioritizing your time. Also, it's really important to keep a schedule. A lot of kin courses are very content heavy specifically. So a lot of people find that studying the same way they did in high school isn't really as effective. So if you put in minimal effort, or if in high school you maybe study 1 or 2 days before, that really is not going to work. And I learned that the hard way too. So it's really important to stay open to trying new study methods until you find one that works for you. Also, for courses, a lot of people in first year kin find that kin 100, which is human anatomy, it's a little bit difficult because it's very content heavy and it's a lot of details. So as long as you stay on top of your work and review often, you'll do fine. But it can be a little bit overwhelming at first. As far as easy courses go, some of the bird courses at Waterloo are HRM 200, Rec 100, Class 104, etc. There's a lot of them. You can find like them easily on Reddit pages, or if you just search up bird courses Waterloo, you'll find like a ton of them. So yeah.
Great. And my next question is, how was the transition from high school to university? I'm going to start by asking Sarah as well again.
Yeah, so the transition really is a little bit different for everyone, depending on just your personality. It's also going to look very different for incoming first years this year, obviously because of Corona. So your experience is going to be pretty unique. However, I would really recommend taking advantage of all the opportunities that come your way. Make sure you get involved your first year, especially. That's something that I personally regret. I wasn't very involved in first year, and I wish I was. It's a great way to meet new people and make friends. It also is good for your resume. If you're really passionate about it, you can always use that on your resume. Also, I know when I was in high school, a lot of my high school teachers kind of like to scare me and say, oh, your university professors aren't going to care about you. You're just a number, or whatever it might be. That's not really true. For the most part, your professors really want to see you succeed. They're nice people. Although it is your responsibility, obviously, to make sure you stay on top of your work and are managing your time, they are like understanding, and they're there to to help you as long as you need it. So don't be afraid to ask them for it. Also, I would highly recommend taking advantage of all the resources that are offered to you on campus and off. No matter what school you end up at, it's kind of inevitable that at some point you're going to get a professor you either don't like, or that you don't like the way they teach or something. So make sure you use everything you can, whether that be tutoring or resources like Chegg or like Quizlet or something online. There are a lot of different resources to help you, so make sure you take advantage of all of them.
Nice. And I'm going to ask Catherine.
So I'm going to address like the academic transition. So in the beginning of university, the work is actually quite easy because it's a review of your 4U courses, given you took that course in high school. So for example, if you took grade 12 chem, your first chem course is basically going to be covering all of that for the first 2.5 months. After that, new content is taught, and it's taught very quickly, so it can sneak up on you because the pace is a lot faster than high school. So for example, a full unit in high school will be taught over a week and a half, whereas in university, it's taught in 1 hour lecture. Professors, for the most part, I think they don't really check in on you personally. So it's up to you to choose whether you review ahead of time, complete your assignments, or attend class. So for example, one thing I got caught up with, especially in my 1B term, was skipping class. So in the beginning, I'd start off strong, midterms would come around, I'd skip class to study for those midterms, and I'd be playing catch up for the rest of the term. So I'd say definitely stay on top of things because it's a lot easier to learn with the class as opposed to teaching yourself the content right before the exams. Most classes do have office hours for the professor and the TAs, and you can go ask questions, you can have a talk. They don't mind, they're really nice, but it's your decision whether you want to use that or not.
All right, thank you everyone. So we're done with our pre-planned questions. Now we're going to go into our open Q&A. So you can continue to send in your questions, but I'm just going to go through what's been sent already. Let me just go. All right, so the first question that I see is, if you apply for different engineering programs, do you have to do multiple video interviews? So I'm going to assume Drew might answer this.
And yeah, I apologize for answering this ahead of the time in the chat. I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to. But no, you only apply to one engineering program, and then on your AIF, you select your second choice engineering program, and you only get 2, unfortunately. But you only have to submit 1 video interview, or it's not even required. But it's recommended that you complete the video interview once, and that's for both programs.
All right. What questions are seen on the AIF form? Maybe Sarah could answer this. She did it.
Sure. So I don't remember exactly, but from what I do remember about it, they were pretty general for the most part. I remember on mine, one of the questions was about some of the extracurriculars you were involved with and how that made you a good fit for the program you were applying to. Another question that I remember was if you could explain why you applied to the chosen program or programs that you applied to, why those over any others, and what your interest was. I believe there were 2 more, but I honestly don't remember what they are. Sorry about that, but they are pretty general, so I wouldn't stress too much.
If anyone else has anything to add, you can go ahead and let me know. All right. For the next question, how would we start networking?
I can take that one.
I can take. Okay.
Oh, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, I'll go. I'll say a bit, and then you say a bit. All right. So I think a great way to network is, which I found is super useful, is go onto LinkedIn and search up that university, search up that program, and just message 20 people on that list. And I guarantee you, like 5 of those people, maybe 4 of those people will definitely reply like within a day. And then you just like start building relationships just like that. And like I did that, but like not like 20 people. I messaged a lot less people, but I still found people, which is what's important. And people are really willing to help. You might think that people aren't so willing, but they really are. Like, you can message me on Instagram or LinkedIn, but yeah, that's about it.
That was an interesting response. I've never thought of that. But for me, like I try and keep in mind that you're kind of always networking when you're making interactions with people, because when you're talking to people, you're making an impression on them, and that's how they'll remember you. If you want to network about, specific things such as your career, you kind of slip in, oh, I'm interested in accounting, something like that. And if they have any knowledge on that, they'll probably say it themselves. They'll be like, oh, I know this person, or I know that person. And, when you're networking, it kind of goes both ways. So if they say something and you know someone who knows something about that, you can be like, oh, do you want me to connect you? I think with networking, you just want to be really open and, just talk to people. That's really all it is.
I'll jump in there too for a bit. I think one thing to just really emphasize when it comes to networking is, when you're networking, just keep in mind that it's all about relationship building. You want to make sure that you're not only asking for something because obviously that's what you want, but you want to make sure you're still offering anything you can as well, because it's all about relationship building. You know, the University of Waterloo, for example, we offer a whole bunch of networking opportunities and panels where companies who are on our Waterloo Works job board, they come to the university and they'll hold sessions for you guys where students can come and really network with these industry professionals in order to gain those network connections. So just make sure you're taking advantage of all of those opportunities, but also making sure that it's about a relationship and it's a two-way street as well.
All right. The next question is kind of specific. If an IB student is taking physics and chemistry for engineering, is it recommended to take biology as a third science in the summer?
I guess this is because it's kind of related to engineering. I can answer. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure. Like that's probably a better question to find online, because I don't want to give you like inaccurate information. But I think that the requirements for, like, because I wasn't in IB, I took like a couple AP courses, but my school didn't offer it. So like I was just like normal high school. But I would imagine taking 3 IB sciences would be like really challenging. And like if it's not required for your engineering, then like personally I wouldn't recommend it. But like that's just my humble opinion. Like just, you know, yeah, I mean if you're interested in it, go for it. But it would be a lot.
I can kind of add to that. Any program in Ontario, they can only require 2 of the 3 sciences. And that is because in your first year, you will take, you know, the course that you didn't take before. So for example, even I in biotech CPA, I didn't have to take bio because I took bio in first year, but it would be harder with that bio if I didn't take it in grade 12. So if the program you're interested in is about biology, then maybe you'd be better off taking it to get that background information. But otherwise, I don't really see the point if you're not going to use it.
All right. I'm not sure what program this is for, but would you recommend taking functions in summer school, I'm assuming, instead of taking it in regular school?
I can answer that. Function, like advanced functions math, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure if Waterloo accounts for summer school marks. But
They do.
They do? All right, then probably not. Probably, yeah. Maybe take it in regular school. Also, like, I feel like you'll understand the material better if you take it in regular school, and that'll help you a lot with like first year math courses. If you know you're taking first year math courses, if you're not in a program that's like math heavy, then maybe you can take it in summer school. I think it'll be okay.
If I could just add something real quick, this isn't specific to functions, but I know when I was applying to Waterloo, some of my friends had taken classes in like private school, even though we went to a public school. And Waterloo, when you do that, Waterloo takes a certain percentage off of your overall average. I don't remember how much. I think it was like 5%. But if you are going to private school a course and essentially like pay for a grade, just be aware that Waterloo does know about that, and they take like percentages off your grade. So make sure you take that into account when you're doing it.
Oh yeah, can I add to that?
Yeah.
So when you take something in private school or summer school, like they were saying, it's essentially people take it thinking it's easier, but you're not really learning the entire content. So if you look at your first year courses and you know that you have to take like Math 127, which is the equivalent of reviewing of advanced functions in first year, then probably not a good idea to take it in summer school or private school, because essentially you're getting this free mark that's really high, but you're going to be paying for a course in Waterloo and essentially not do that well and lower your GPA. So it's better to learn the content in regular school.
I'd like to add to that as well. You guys should realize that if like sometimes you really can't get it into your schedule, because I know for one of my courses I actually couldn't fit it in. And so you guys can add that onto your AIF, because there's a space for like why you are taking this course, where you're taking it, so you can write about, oh, I'm taking this in summer school. But yeah, you should definitely not go the private school route. But if you are doing summer school, I personally did a summer school course and I did write about it in my AIF.
I was just going to say this applies to all universities, I would say. And our next question is there anything, as someone's wondering, if there's anything they can do during the summer to prepare for the application process? I'm assuming for the video interview and trait assessment, are the actual questions or practice questions released beforehand?
I'm sorry, the question is if the practice questions for the video interview are like released before you take the
Early,
interview.
yeah. And the trait assessment?
I'm not familiar with the trade assessment, but for the video interview, I remember at least 2 years ago, unless there's been changes, you could practice as many times as you wanted with like, and it was exactly how it would happen. Like the only difference between like your recorded response and your practice responses are obviously like the question you haven't seen before for the real one, and like it's just a different button that you press, and that like was really helpful. So you can do that as many times as you want to like get in the zone of like answering the questions, and like it's pretty helpful. There you can do it enough times, like the practice ones, that like you'll start realizing that it's repeating questions. But honestly, if you can answer, like if you look up top 50 job interview questions and you can answer those, then you could definitely breeze through the video interview.
Brahmin, I think.
Yeah, so to add to that, for AFM though, we had the same questions. So we literally had the three exact same questions, and you can keep on practicing it, right? Even write down your answer, you can memorize it if you want. So I would advise you to write it down and read off of it. You should, actually no, you definitely should not do that. You should memorize it and then say it. But I'm not familiar with the trait assessment either. So.
Okay. I'm just gonna add, not to plug us again, but if you guys have any questions like that, I know the IB question, we didn't have anyone who's done IB. We do have other mentors who have done IB, so if you guys do want to join our mentorship program, we can like let you meet them and talk to them, ask your questions. Our next question is, do employers look at or look for your LinkedIn?
I can jump in there. Again, it's gonna be different for everybody depending on the employer you're applying for. For me personally, I know that because I've been applying externally, I've had a bunch of employers look at my LinkedIn profile, so I definitely highly recommend you take a day or two or however long you need to really work on your LinkedIn profile and make sure you're open for recruiters, but you're also making sure it's up to date. You know, whether you're in extracurriculars at the university, whether you're doing it now over the summer, make sure you're taking those opportunities and really updating your LinkedIn profile, because they will look at it, but it won't be a sole contributor to whether or not you get the job.
This is a question for Drew. Why did you choose MEC-Eng over the other Eng programs at Waterloo, and was it your first choice?
So yeah, MEC-Eng was my first choice, and I chose that honestly because I wasn't super sure about what kind of engineering that I wanted to do, and I knew that mechanical engineers had opportunities to work in like a lot of different industries after they graduate, and mechanical is like a very broad type of engineering that kind of just learns like a bunch of different necessary things that you can apply to a lot of different areas. So that's why I chose mechanical.
I don't know if Julie already saw this message, but someone asked if you could put the link for the Facebook page where people can go to the info workshops in the chat.
I messaged it to him, but it's just facebook.com/UW-info-sessions.
All right. Next question is, what is the difference between life sci, health sci, and health studies? Okay, I'm gonna start with that.
Okay, I can speak to the health studies part, and then maybe Archana can speak for the life science part. So first of all, health studies and health science. Health science is not a program at Waterloo. Health studies is the only like health program. There's also public health, but that's like separate. So health studies is kind of combines science and like the social determinants of health, as opposed to just biological determinants, which is more life science based. So health studies, some of the classes you take you will take bio and chem, you can take physics, but it's not required. But you'll also take social determinants of health, and other courses like that. So it kind of is a combination of the two, whereas life sciences is more like core science, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so for life sciences, you have to choose a specialization when you apply. So either physics, chemistry, biology, biochem, I think, and biomed, which is my specialization. And all of them come with co-op except for biomed's the program that I'm in. And if you're confused, I would say, on what specialization or what program, you should search up Waterloo undergraduate calendar for whichever entering class. So if you're entering this year, so it'll be 2020 undergraduate calendar, and then it lets you choose the faculty. So you go into science and then the program, life sciences or health sciences, whatever it is, and it actually tell you the courses in your 4-year program of what courses you're required to take and what electives. So if you look at a biology major, for example, it's a lot of bio. So you'll have to learn about plants, invertebrate zoology, vertebrate zoology, and a lot of stuff like that. It's not just going to be human anatomy, human biology, and stuff like that. So, well, versus chem, you would have to take higher organic chemistry, which you may or may not enjoy. So if you look at that and you Google Waterloo undergraduate calendar, it'll pop up and you'll be able to have a good overview of what courses each program entails.
If I could just add to that, sorry. Also make sure when you look up the courses, make sure you're looking past your first year courses, because a lot of first year courses are very similar across all the science faculties. So you'll take very general courses. So if you really want a good idea, make sure you're looking at courses you can take in 3rd and 4th year too. And that'll really help you narrow down kind of what you're interested in.
I'm just gonna ask Hannah to send the link for the calendar in the chat if you can.
Okay.
I just have a question. So someone's asking about courses for AFM and biotech CPA. So I'm going to start with AFM from Bremian. What are the courses like?
Okay, so you guys can Google AFM courses. Like I literally Googled that today and it'll give you a list of all of them. And so the courses there, like I said, I had trouble in accounting, but that's because I never took any accounting courses in high school, and it is accounting and finance. But other than that, to be honest, it wasn't too bad. I enjoy finance, so I had a good time in AFM 121. I had a good time in AFM 112, which was business analytics, like I told you guys earlier. There's also econ. There's 2 econ courses which you have to take. Sorry, I think it's one first year and then another one second year. But yeah, so I think it's all right. The courses are all right. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. It has to do with your interests, I have to say. But yeah, you guys can message me afterwards and I can answer any other questions.
And I'm going to ask Kat to talk about biotech CPA.
So biotech CPA is half science, half accounting. So in my first 2 years, or my first year, it was mostly science courses and 2 AFM courses. But in my second year, it was kind of roughly half-half. And then 3rd year, it's mostly AFM and 1 or 2 science courses per term. So the balance is kind of hard just because the science and accounting sides don't really mix at all, and the faculties don't talk to each other. So a lot of times you'll have like 1 week with a lot of stuff to do. The courses in general, like in first year, it's pretty general. It's like cell biology, which is partly grade 12 bio, 2 chem courses, which are review of grade 11 and 12 chem, financial accounting in first year, econ. So it's really general in the first year, but it gets more specific in the upper years. One more thing I'll add, like my program compared to AFM does not have a lot of flexibility. I have 1 elective in my undergrad and I get to choose between a bio and a science and a chem, whereas AFM has a couple electives, I think every year. So first year you have 1 elective, second you have 1 or 2 or something like that.
I'm just going to say we only have like about 10 minutes left, but I'm going to try and get through as many questions as we can. I guess this is a quick one. When applying to jobs externally, what jobs do you apply to? Full-time, part-time, summer intern? What's the name you look for?
Apply to internships.
Yeah, so it really depends. So for me, when I've been applying externally, a lot of them are going to be either full-time or internship. What's really great is you want to look for seasonal in a sense. And by that, I mean, it'll still be full-time, so 40 hours a week. But a lot of companies, at least in sports industry, and I'm sure in a lot of others, because if they're aware of co-op programs, they actually offer 4-month full-time basis jobs. So you'll see those a lot. Definitely apply to those. But the Waterloo really offers flexibility when it comes to that. So for example, you can also, if you don't want to do full-time or you are having trouble finding a full-time job for 4 months, you can actually combine 2 part-time jobs together and they'll count that as your co-op job for the semester. So you do have flexibility when it comes to full-time or internship or whatever that may be, but I definitely recommend applying to full-time or seasonal or internships because that'll get you where you need to be.
All right. This is a quick one as well. How are clubs and organizations going to adapt around COVID-19? So maybe like Archana or Brendan can talk about that.
So I'm from a World Vision Club. We are trying to take things online, so focus on more advocacy events because we are a nonprofit organization that we're representing. So talk about current events through maybe like Zoom meetings or stuff like that, things that you can still interact with without in-person meetings or in-person activities. And for my other club, Swimming with the Mission, we're just going to pause that as of right now because you can't be one-on-one with the student in the water. So I believe other clubs will also be doing similar things, trying to move everything online and still keep general members and executive members engaged.
There's a lot of questions about how people manage their time to keep up with how much the workload is, whether it's AFM or just in general university. So if anyone wants to maybe say some tips they have.
I would definitely recommend getting a planner. That's very helpful for like, make sure you keep track of all of your due dates when you get your syllabi. Write them all down right at the beginning so you don't forget, because a lot of your professors won't remind you of them. It's kind of your responsibility to not miss the deadlines. Also, it's really important to kind of review things like on a weekly basis as opposed to just wait and cram right before the midterm or your final exam. So make sure you're doing that. And then really it's just kind of a university in general is just about finding a balance between working and like free time and like having fun. You'll notice like in your first like year, that's kind of what it is about. It's just finding that balance, whatever works for you. It's different for everyone, but you can't just be working all the time and then that's not good for your mental health. So definitely try to find that balance, and it might take some time, but you'll find it eventually.
Right. I have a quick question. Can you show personal projects related to your field in your AIF?
Yeah, I think that's like, oh, here, I'll answer that. So I think that's the main point of it. It's not just to talk about your courses. It's about what you're doing outside of school, outside of academics. And so, so yeah, you definitely can. You should. That's yeah. You definitely should.
I'm just gonna say there's a lot of questions that are kind of specific, asking about like balancing and just tips and all those kind of things. I think I'm gonna ask you guys maybe to just sign up for mentorship because those are things I think that are very personal. We have a question. What are some examples of co-op jobs in AHS, specifically health studies?
I can speak to that. Some of the co-op jobs for health studies include a lot of like research assistant positions, some like project coordinators, like health and safety specialists, etc. You can find, if you Google UW health studies, they have a list of some sample ones. But speaking from like experience and like friends' experiences, if you're in AHS, specifically health studies, a lot of the first year job opportunities from Waterloo Works are not entirely super related to health studies. It's kind of like receptionist positions and stuff. And a lot of the really good ones will go to upper years. So don't be alarmed if that happens. It's pretty normal, but that's why you should also apply externally also.
I think this question, I think maybe Kat can answer this. How did you get about going to a co-op placement at a Big Four accounting firm?
Like I said, networking. So I got my placement before fall. I got it in May before second year, so I didn't use Waterloo Works, but all the Big Four have a summer conference where you apply in April and the conference is in June or July or August. So if you apply through that and you get in, then you will get a job offer for your co-op. Some tips for that, just network, talk to the recruiters, make a good connection, and then talk to upper years about developing your resume for that.
I think this, maybe Julie could answer this because she did a double degree before. How do double degree programs work, and can you drop one if you don't want to do one of them and continue the other one?
Yes, I was in double degree first year. How do they work? So I'm assuming you're talking about the Laurier Waterloo double degree. Basically, you're pursuing a BBA at Laurier and either math or computer science at Waterloo at the same time. So you're going to be switching between the school. You're going to be walking between the schools, going to different classes, getting credits from both schools. And yeah, you can drop anytime. I dropped after my first year because I realized I want to focus more on math. And yeah, a lot of the credits can transfer over, so you don't have to worry about being behind. You might have to worry a bit if you drop later on, because if you're not pursuing a business degree anymore, some of the business courses that you've taken might not be so useful. And yeah, it's very easy to drop.
A lot of people are wondering if GPA matters a lot for co-op positions.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
can answer that. Okay. So basically, yes and no. If you have a, extraordinary GPA, it's obviously gonna make you stand out. But if you have an average GPA, it's not gonna ruin your chances in any way. That being said, if you have a really low GPA, you're also gonna stand out in a bad way as well. But so yeah, it doesn't affect too much. I think employers, in terms of what they prioritize, firstly, it's gonna be experience and projects, all before as GPA.
And I think one note as well is if you're applying through Waterloo Works, your grades will be submitted along with your resume and cover letter. Whereas if you're applying externally, normally they don't ask for your grades. But as Julie said, it's really about what you do and say in your interview. It's how you present yourself. It's about everything else you're doing. So it's not just about your grades. It's not going to be a make or break situation when it comes to your job.
All right.
I'd like to add on to that.
Go ahead.
I think your first co-op term. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I think your first co-op term do matter a lot more than afterwards, because once you have some experience, then they'll look more towards that, less towards.
Okay, sorry, I just paused for a second. I guess our last question is, someone's asking if you recommend studying ahead, now, before, I guess, first year begins.
I would say enjoy your summer. The courses you take in high school will set you up for the courses you take in first year, and the profs are really good and they'll teach you what you need to know.
And Mahak, I see your question and we will reply to that probably. But thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you so much to our panelists for all of your answers and your helpful tips. And if you guys have any more questions, your questions weren't answered properly, or you need more guidance, feel free to sign up for mentorship. Again, I'll put the link one more time into the chat if you guys didn't get it already. And again, thank you so much for coming, and have a good night. And yeah.